Well, I'm out today, back out on the Revolt, and it's still very windy. I thought I'd missed all the traffic, but appear not. And this always upsets people. British people love a queue, and as Holly Willoughby and Phil Schofield found out, they don't like what they consider to be queue jumpers, even though it doesn't affect them in any way at all. And sometimes the cars will actually move across to block you. What we'll do now is just do a sneaky, go around the corner on the pavement, which is allowed, it is a cycle path. The one thing I don't like is stopping. It sort of upsets your rhythm, and especially with a long queue of cars like that coming up to the lights, because you can often sit through 2 or 3 changes of the lights. And hopefully once we turn off around this corner, hopefully that'll be away from the traffic. So I'm back on the Revolt because it needed a service. You know, new bikes need bedding in and one thing and another, and the dealers do offer you a service for free after 6 weeks, they say. But I'd ridden the bike so much in the first couple of weeks, and the gear started jumping and one thing and another. So I rang them up, but they couldn't fit it in. Amazing, really, how every cycle mechanic is up to his eyeballs in work. So if you're looking for a job, it might be something worth considering. It's a long old climb, this. So it's probably a good thing that they were too busy, because it meant that I got out on the other 2 bikes, so they weren't neglected. All the time I've been riding, I've been coming up this route. There's a really main road here, and it's really difficult to get across. It's a busy roundabout, a lot of traffic, and you feel like you just got to take a chance and go and hope for the best. And all this time, this bridge has been here and I didn't even know. So I can go straight up and over the main road. No problem. So while the fella was sorting out the bike, he said that the rear neck looked like it had taken a bit of a knock. And that surprised me, because I'm normally pretty careful with things. I certainly don't remember anything happening to it. Anyway, I don't remember the bike falling over or anything like that, but nevertheless, He's fixed it now. While I was there, started looking for a new saddlebag, because I've got a couple of Von Traeger saddlebags bolt-on my other bikes, and they're brilliant, and I paid very little money for them. I tried to get another one for this bike, so I've been using this rather cheap and nasty top tube bag. Anyway, turns out it was quite fortuitous that Von Traeger don't do them anymore, because in the meantime I got a new phone, and my new phone doesn't fit in the saddlebags. I mean, my old phone, about 3 years old, it was a good phone, nothing wrong with it really, except I personally think these things are designed to fail, and after 3 years the battery wouldn't charge anymore, it wouldn't hold the charge anyway. So given that my phone needed to be replaced anyway, I decided to go for an iPhone 14 Pro Max. I went for that because of the camera, because it's got an extra lens and it can shoot RAW. And I use it a lot. Might surprise you. Having been a photographer, professional photographer for so many years, and I use my iPhone camera a lot. But the fact is, as any professional photographer will tell you, it's about the image, not the equipment used to capture it. And that's the trap that so many amateurs fall into. It's known in the photography business as GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. You'll have people come up to you often, say, "Oh, what portrait lens would you recommend?" And I said, "But you don't do portraits." "Yeah, but I want a portrait lens. I want every piece of equipment available." Somehow believing that more equipment and more expensive equipment will improve their photography. And one of my students came up to me during a break, and we'd been talking about auto bracketing. And the clue is in the name. It's auto bracketing. It means you can still do it manually. She said to me she had a Canon EOS 1000. So the student said to me, "I think I'm going to have to get a new camera." I said, "Why? There's nothing wrong with your camera." I was taken aback. He said, "Well, everybody else has got a much fancier camera than me." And I said to her, "Give me your camera and I will do a day's work with it. But I will get every shot I need. I might have to think a bit, but I'll get all the shots. And when one of my pictures has been a double page spread in a magazine, Nobody has ever come up to me and said, "Well, if only you'd had that more expensive lens." Nobody's ever looked at one of my shots that's been made into a poster and said, "Oh, it's a nice picture, but if only you'd been using a more expensive camera, it would have been nicer." It doesn't happen. People appreciate the picture for the picture, for what it says. And the picture is no less relevant because of the equipment. I mean, look at me. I make these movies with GoPro cameras. And GoPro are probably the worst cameras in the world. I'm surprised there hasn't been a class action against GoPro for charging an incredible amount of money for things that just don't work. I love this view. Oh, he's brave. Morning. I've never come up this hill, only down it. And I do feel that there is a little bit of gear acquisition syndrome in cycling. The first thing you say, "Oh, I've got a new bike," and they'll go, "Yeah, throw away those wheels. Got to have carbon wheels." And there's people who do believe that. "Oh, if only I had those carbon wheels, it would improve my cycling so much. If only I had that aero bike, really make me fast." And when it does you no favours when you're going uphill. So anyway, I told you all of that to tell you about the saddlebag. Remember that? So I saw on the shelf a giant bolt-on saddlebag. I had a look. Took my phone out, tried it, plenty big enough. 20 quid. So it's not a king's ransom, but definitely more expensive than the Bontrager ones. Anyway, I got it. And I got it home and tried to put it on. And it's just got the most bizarre clamp system. You have to line up these two little plastic posts, and the whole clamping system is plastic. You know what? I would have paid you another 2 quid if you put on a decent clamp system. But no. I got it home, I put it on, felt a bit loose. So I tightened it up a bit more and the whole thing fell off. Because the nut had pulled through the thin plastic, making the thing basically useless. I should have taken it back. I know I should. But you're at that point. 20 quid. Cost of the fuel to drive back there. It's going to take half an hour each way. And you think, is it worth it? Morning. So I've sort of repaired it. But for today anyway, my phone is still in my rather horrible top tube bag. Thank you, because I don't trust this one, and I don't want my new phone dropping off down the road because the saddlebag falls off. And that annoyed me a bit, because like I said, instead of trying to cheap out, even if they felt they had to charge £2 more for a decent system, I would have paid it. But now I'm thinking, well, I'm never going to buy another giant accessory because they're rubbish. So how do they think that improves business? I don't know. But if it had worked properly, straight away I would have bought another two for my other bikes. And that's the modern world. I find it quite strange, really. If you've got accountants running a business, you've got a problem. Because accountants will look at it and say, well, if we take this washer out and we save $0.25 cent year on year, I project we could save X amount of money, and that's great. Except it doesn't account for the loss of business, because people think your product is rubbish. It really is just a common theme of the modern world. Nothing works. Everything you're sold is a disappointment. There's no service in any industry. And interestingly, when people did do things properly, companies were profitable. Now they say they can't make money. Of course, the difference is now the directors of companies don't want to make a good living anymore. They want to make an absolute killing. Well, that's really all it is. Get into the business. Get a $24 million bonus and then run. So that's it. That's me ranting about the modern world as usual. Happens to all of us as we get older. But what is interesting is the number of younger people who are getting angry with the modern world. It used to just be old people, because things have changed so much since we were growing up. And now seems like things genuinely are getting worse.